Hey, Bill. Hey, Kim. Appreciate everybody joining us here on After the Game, live from Yogi's. Of course, we're waiting for everybody to get on. We've got plenty coming. Indiana at Maryland today. Not exactly what Hoosier fans are looking for, especially after that Gator Bowl loss.
Rough weekend.
It has been a rough
Be a Hoosier sports fan.
It has. Appreciate everybody jumping on.
Please let us know early if we have any sound issues.
Well, if our man Jake's around, getting this shared out.
Hope he's taking care of his dad today.
Yeah, before we get going, we want to send out a special thought to Jake Drescher's dad, who Jake's our producer. If you listen to Indiana Sports Beat radio every day, you know who Jake is, and his dad is dealing with some health issues that we certainly hope that finds him well and he gets through those just fine. So thinking about Jake, and so everybody send their thoughts and prayers out to Jake and his family today while we're.
Even though Jake is not very good scorer in basketball, we still like him as a producer.
Yes. Yep, we couldn't do it without him, man. Yeah, you're not wrong. Mark says we're going to need something stronger than Bud Light. You're not wrong.
Yes, sir.
But thank goodness that Best Beer of Bllomington is providing everybody with some great beer. But, yeah. Coming to you live from Yogi's, of course, after the game with Todd Leary, coming to you live from Yogi's here in Bllomington, brought to you by Best Beer of Bllomington. We appreciate them so much. And when you're out and about, make sure you're having a cold Bud or Bud Light or something just similar, brought to you by Best Beer. We appreciate that. As I get into this, we'll get deeper into that. Alan says, now I can be more miserable by changing a hot water heater to finish my crappy day.
Yeah, this is a water heater issue kind of day, kind of weekend.
And then he's going to bust his knuckles. He's
yeah,
going to be totally pissed off.
Nothing positive's coming out of this.
While I get this thing shared out, overall thoughts on what you saw today, Todd?
Well, I know we'll get into a lot of the details, but this is not a great performance. I'll start out by saying I'm still very optimistic about this team. I don't feel great about today's play. There's a whole bunch of different issues I have with today's play. I thought there was a lot of, especially to start the ball game, I was very pleased with I think the game plan and the execution of the game plan. I thought they were doing a good job getting the ball to where they wanted to. They didn't shoot any three-pointers in the first 10 minutes of the game. I'm not that big a fan of that. I want them to shoot some three-pointers, but I want them to make some of them. But you could obviously tell the game plan was to get the ball not just passed into the post, but to drive into the lane and get your shots coming from the inside out. So a lot of positives, I thought, to start the game out. I'll just go over my overall. I like to break the season down into 3 or 4 game stretches, and I think a month ago, we all, most people who are not just lunatic IU fans, most people looked at this game as probably a loss. I marked down what I thought Indiana would be. I think Indiana will have 12 or 13 victories in the Big Ten, and I think, and I had this marked down as a loss. So if you're gonna go ahead and concede that as a loss, which I think most of us would have done, going into the season, going into a month ago.
Even today, I expect.
Even today, well, especially coming off of the way they played at Arkansas. I mean, I think so, but I'll also say, I'm not very good at that. I'm not good at conceding losses, and I do think that there are some things that you can get better at and learn from in losses, but I marked it down as a loss, and so I think most Indiana fans did, and if we did, then we can't sit here and bash them. See, Eric, we can't sit there and bash them that badly when we all kind of expected them to lose anyway. So the problem, I mean, they're down by 3 points with 14 and a half minutes to go in the game, and at some point in the second half you're down 30. A lot of bad things have to happen both offensively and defensively for those statistics to even be in play. So just a lot of different things that I think have to get cleaned up. The bad part, Indiana needed a good. Here's Indiana fans needed a good performance today. The football team had a huge letdown. I think almost all of us watched that, the other night, and this was a good opportunity for the basketball team to kind of make us all feel a little bit better about everything, and we didn't get it. So, we needed it, and we didn't get it. So we're going to place the blame on somebody else.
Hey, Kelly, got everybody. I think we got everybody we need on here now to get her going. John says Todd definitely needs a drink. Well, I think there's a lot of people that are going to be needing that later today after this weekend. Jake's on with us. Hey, Jake, how are you?
Need and want. I don't know that it falls into the need category, but it definitely falls into the want category.
Could certainly help. Gordon, penance paid by watching this game, I guess. Yeah. So for you,
people are funny today, at least.
I'm telling you, they got a great attitude. We appreciate that. Bill, my starting lineup for the next game, Brunk, Bybee, Chapman, Ship, and Henderson.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get what the point. I get what you're saying with all of that. I
Mark says, is there enough alcohol in the state of Indiana to overcome this? One, you talk about, lineup stuff, and we can do that all day long. But one thing I did notice, and this was at the end of the game, nothing to do with the game, Cooper Bybee, someone that when there's 2.5 minutes to go and the game is out of hand, why not put somebody like that in and say, let's get him a little bit of minutes. Maybe he could be useful down the road.
I agree. I don't have a reason why that wouldn't be the case. I mean, when you're down 30 in the second half, I don't know why. I mean, other than the fact you're using it to, as a more advanced practice speed, I don't know why anybody would be on the floor pretty much at that point. I mean, you're not coming back from being down by 30 with 10 minutes to go. So at that point, let me see what somebody else can do. That's how stars are born. That's how guys are discovered off of, maybe they can do it. But then again, it should have never gotten to that point. Like, I get where you're coming from with that, but our solution at that point was we put in Jerome Hunter, and you saw what happened to him. If he wasn't injured, but if his knees weren't injured before, they probably are now. His ankles.
Broke his ankles.
Yeah, I mean, he got crossed over.
Oh man.
But I mean, and that's just I'm making fun of a bad situation that happened in that. But
that's all we can do right now.
It is. I mean, this is not. There's nothing that I'm really going to say that is going to make any Indiana fan feel better. I mean, we just lost. And we don't accept losing very well. I mean, we're not good losers.
It's no fun. There's not a lot of fun in it.
There's not. And it's piling on to a very, very, very frustrating football game loss.
Poteet's embarrassed.
We're all, I mean, you're not allowed to be embarrassed. As a fan, you're not allowed to be embarrassed. I mean, I'm not allowed to be embarrassed by it. I'm an Indiana supporter. No matter what, I'll wear my hat tomorrow. I wore it the day after the football game. I'll wear it again tomorrow. Like I'm an Indiana fan. That's not the point of it.
And Brad acknowledges the loss. Was coming in. We thought you expected this to be a loss. If you just thought if you
right
at the beginning of the season, you're not going to win that one. But it's not losing that I think is bothering a lot of fans. It's how they're losing. It's why they're losing. It's why they're losing so badly. I mean,
it was a 3-point game. It was a 3-point game with 4 minutes to go. So if that's the case, then you don't feel that bad about it.
Yeah, but what was some of that because of?
Yeah, I mean, they should have been ahead. I mean, that was my point. I mean, you look at the halftime stats. Indiana shoots 27% in the first half. I'll say they shoot 50% from the free throw line, but that's even a weird stat because they were only 3 for 6. Now the problem with all that is they were only 3 for 6. And, this is a team we talked about early in the year. They led the nation, I believe. If not, they were second in the nation in getting to the free throw line and converting at the free throw line. And so 3 for 6 is not going to keep you in that. I mean, that's not what got you there. That's not what got you to 11-2 or 10-1 and so
soft schedule
it did, but you know what? You were doing what you at that point. They were saying it was very important to get to the free throw line,
and they were doing it,
and they're not doing it. So that's obviously an issue. And watching Maryland switch defenses and go back and forth from a zone to a man-to-man, I'm surprised they ever went back to the man-to-man. Indiana didn't make any shots that would have yanked them out of that, but, it's not their normal defense, so they were just trying it out, and I don't know.
Brad's frustrated. Mike, free throws again. Man, we're kind of back to that. It's so weird because this is a problem that has been there for a couple of years, but it seemed like it went away. They were hitting free throws. We had that night where Trace Jackson-Davis was, 14 of 15?
Right.
Things were looking good, but then all of a sudden, again, the train has kind of got off the tracks on that. And
this is a good, barometer to see. If you just want to look at box scores tomorrow, take the team names out of it. Take who plays home, away. Take all of that out of it. Coaches will say all the time, and Indiana said it to start this year. Coach Knight said it from the very first day I ever arrived on campus, that your goal as a team in a game is to make more free throws than your opponent shoots. And if you do that, that team almost wins all the time. So that's why they focus so much on that stat. It used to be that you needed to just out-rebound your opponent. And 90% of the time, the team with the most rebounds would win the game. The three-point line changed that a little bit to where you could get out-rebounded. You could still win the game if you shot the ball well from the three-point line. But if you make more free throws than your opponent attempts, you almost always win. And that's the fact today for Maryland. I mean, Maryland shoots 21 of 25 from the free throw line, so they made 21, and Indiana only shot 18. They only made 11 of those at 18, but they only shot 18. So if you take that stat, if a team makes more free throws than the other team shoots, they almost always win. And that was something Indiana was living and dying off of, mostly living, to start the season out. And in this game, it just wasn't even close. Like, it's not even a comparison.
John asked, was it veterans versus youth that caused the flip?
No.
You don't think?
The flip in this game? No, I don't think so. I mean, in the first half, okay, so going down through the stats again, Indiana, I thought they executed the game plan pretty well from the standpoint of they only shot 7 3-pointers. I mean, they were 1 for 7. That's terrible.
And you noticed at the beginning of the game,
they didn't shoot any for the first 10 minutes. So no 3-point attempts for the first 10 minutes. Everything was inside the lane. I think only 2 shots at all were outside the lane.
And they did a good job of getting to those shots.
They did. And Joey Brunk had a beautiful left-handed jump hook. You saw Justin Smith with an awesome right-handed jump hook, banking it off the basket. And then in the second half, I can probably name 3 plays where they had similar type plays to that. They got away from it. So the next question is going to be why, and I don't have the answer for.
Hey, we appreciate everybody joining us here, of course, after the game with Todd Leary, Indiana at Michigan today. Unfortunately, they lose 75-59. We're here at Yogi's Live in Bllomington, brought to you by Best Beer of Bllomington. We appreciate those guys. Have yourself a nice ice-cold Bud Light or Budweiser when you're out and about. A lot of people, man, we've got a ton of people here, a ton of questions. Mike says the coaching has got to get better. Robert Carter, the truth, I don't see improvement on offense. It's been the same thing over and over. Yeah. The free throw thing that you talked about, Indiana had made a point of emphasis of getting to the line, and they were doing that so well at the beginning of the year, like you pointed out, and they were hitting the free throws. Now they're not getting to the line as often, and they're not hitting it when they get there. So that is a recipe for disaster. As you said, when teams that usually do the opposite win. So when you're not doing that and you're not doing a lot of other things right, there's very little chance for victory.
Yeah, especially on the road. I don't like to look at the other teams and their successes and failures as a barometer for how our team is doing. But I mean, all of us were pretty harsh about the Indiana losing at Wisconsin the way that they lost. And that loss is looking a lot less bad now. When you look at Wisconsin, I mean, that goes into Ohio State yesterday and wins on the road. And we just talked about, I mean, there isn't one single person on here that didn't go to Wisconsin that would ever have thought Wisconsin had a chance of going into Ohio State and winning. I mean, they were the number 1 team in the country 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
And they're a team that we still think is the best team in the Big Ten.
Talent-wise and coaching-wise and from every aspect-wise, I think they're the most talented team in the Big Ten, without a doubt. And they just got beat. They just got beat by a team that's not very good and not coached that well. I mean, Wisconsin is not very good, and they're not coached very well. And I mean, they're mediocre. I don't want to say there's anything bad about them. They're just what they are. I mean, there's nothing big special about them. So when you take that aspect, I don't like to sit here and say the only part of that I do really want to take. This goes totally against my nature, and that is we're going to have to accept some of these losses. And just because they lost by 16, they were in this game for 30 minutes of it, and the final score, had they lost by 2, would we feel a lot better about it? I mean, not really. They had so many different opportunities in the first half to be ahead by 10 that once they weren't, I almost would have probably assured you they were not going to win the game, because they just weren't playing. They weren't doing the little things that was going to get them that 10-point lead. And, like one of the things that getting back to the comment that I believe it was Alan or Tim or whoever just made right there about the offense, and that's the getting to the free throw line and all that is that's a result of the offense and you doing what the offense is designed for you to do. I don't like the way our offense is running, and I don't like what they're doing with it. I don't like the fact that we have all these guys out on the court and we run a weave for 4 or 5 passes within the offense before we get anything going, because we're getting down to the end of the shot clock way too many times and taking a bad shot. And so I don't like wasting those first 14 seconds on the shot clock, because it's coming back to haunt us at the end. So I'm in agreement with you. I think I think the overall design of some of the things in the offense has got to change. I honestly do. And I don't think, Indiana had 2 instances in this game where they dribbled straight down the court and they threw it straight in the post. And neither one of them turned out good. Those are not what we're looking for. Just because I want the ball to be fed into the post, there's a way to do it where it works out the best, and that involves, I've said this game in and game out, that involves getting the ball down the court, getting it reversed from one side of the court to the other, and then throwing it in the post. What happens with it after that is almost always good. It's either a basket, a foul, or they kick it out for a good shot. That shot doesn't always get made, but you kick it out for the best opportunity that you can get, and that's what I want to see him get more to, and that doesn't involve, nothing I said involved a weave. And for some reason, we waste 4 or 5 passes on a weave.
After the last game, Archie said in the post-game press conference that there are some things going on out there that are not what's being called, that basically that they're not always doing what they're supposed to be doing, even though they've been told otherwise. Are you seeing that still, do you think? Are they not doing the things that they're probably being told in huddles or prior to halftime or whatever? Are they executing the way or what they're supposed to be executing?
I think defensively, I think they're still making some mistakes. They're missing some switches. They're missing some things that, they're going under screens when they're supposed to chase their man. And, I think there's still some of those mistakes. I think there's probably less than there were. But overall, offensively, I think for the most part, they're probably running pretty similar to what they have drawn up. At least it looks like it, because if they're not, they've been running what they're running right now all season long. And if that's not what you have drawn up, you surely, I think, would make some changes.
And you said that it looks like there are changes, and I think a lot of us agree that there are changes that need to happen. What are some of those changes?
I think the ball. I don't understand. We don't have a team that's great. We don't have a great 2-man game where you can say I understand why we have so many ball screens if we have guys that are great at the 2-man game. Kind of one of the points I see with the 2-man game, and when I say that, I mean the high ball screen and a guy dribbling off of it and a guy rolling to the basket. If you've got 2 guys that work well together and you're able to feed him the ball a bunch, that's obviously a reason for that. If another big reason for that is to drive off of that, drive into the lane, create it where you have to have help defense and you kick it out to shooters. Well, we're struggling shooting the ball. So I don't really see how that part of the offense is really playing into Indiana's strengths and playing into what we're good at. And so it just makes it, in answer to your question, I mean, I don't think we're playing to our strengths in running those high ball screens. The weave, I don't understand at all. When you see the passes where you have like I could specifically remember Devontae Green and Rob Finney in a couple of different instances where they passed the ball to Trace Jackson Davis 5 feet away from him and then run over and get the ball right back from him. Like, there's supposed to be a purpose with everything that you do, and for the life of me, I'd like for somebody to explain to me what the purpose of that is. Like, it would be like us standing right here and me throwing you the ball and then walking over and getting it right back from you. Like, what is going? Like, why does that need to happen? I don't understand that. Like, none of that to me makes any sense. But I'm not. And Indiana is not the only team that does that. I think 95% of the teams across the country run those sets where they do something like that. I don't understand why any of it happens, to be honest with you.
Dave says, Joey and Trace Jackson Davis both playing great in the post. Our guards seem terrified of interior passing. For lack of better words, our guards seem soft without any contact. We know that all of our guards are tough. I just can't understand the problem getting the ball into the bigs.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't understand the problem with it. Other than I don't think it's a major focus. It doesn't appear to be because I don't understand that either.
On the team is a post player.
I agree with you, but I also you want to take a statement like what is made right there. Like, no, Joey Brunk and Trace Jackson Davis did not play great. I didn't think either one of them played very good. So I don't understand that comment because I didn't think either guy played very good.
Today, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't think either. I think Trace Jackson Davis is the best player by far. I think Joey Brunk has had. He's had spurts where he's played really good, but he's also had some. He had a spurt today defensively where he just absolutely annihilated us and killed us. And yeah, he scored baskets here or there. Let's see, what did he have? Joey Brunk had 9 points on 4 of 7 shooting. He did have 10 rebounds. Okay, so he played an average game. I mean, let's not say he was great or whatever. Joey Brunk played okay. But that's okay in a lineup of a bunch of guys who didn't play very good. So, yeah, he looked like one of our better players when it comes to that instance. But no, none of those guys played good. This is another game again. You can come out of it. Arkansas, I said the exact same thing. This game, I'll say the exact same thing. Who would you come out of this and name the player of the game? Like, who played good? Like, I don't. At the end of the game, Devontae Green ends up with 18 points because he made 2 threes at the end and a couple of layups and a couple of free throws. So point-wise, if you're going to pick a player of the game for Indiana, he's going to be it. He's the only player in double figures for Indiana.
And how bad is that statement?
It's awful. It's awful. I mean, the fact that you can't identify who's played well in the last 2 games, that's on the players, okay? That's you can say whatever you want about the coaches, you can say about the offense, you can say about whatever you want to say. Like, it's not that difficult to go out and play well. And no matter even if they ask you, they're not asking you to do things you're not capable of doing. So if you go out and execute those things, you're still going to look like you played pretty good. We got guys who look like Trace Jackson Davis had 2 travel calls on him in the first half today. He looked like a freshman. You know what they did to him today? They sped him up. He was playing fast. He hasn't had 2 travels in one game probably all year long, maybe in his entire career. And they sped him up today. He was playing faster than he was comfortable with. In my opinion, he's still the best player on the floor, without question. I mean, he is the best player on that floor, but he played a little bit more like a freshman today than what he's shown.
And since he is, not only is he the best player, he's, I hate to say this, but one of Indiana's only really good players.
Without doubt.
Good player. So when the teams are successful at taking away what he's good at, it really makes Indiana extraordinarily vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, if you're scouting Indiana, so this is probably the easiest way to figure out what your team is good and bad at is scout your own team. Like all of us as Indiana fans right now, I mean, we want to look at Maryland and see what Maryland did or whatever. Scout Indiana. What would you do to take away? What would you do if you were playing against Indiana? And what would your focus be defensively? What would you try to take away? And I mean, Trace Jackson Davis is
all day long.
You want to limit Devontae because I don't believe that anyone else on the team is capable. Or at least they've not shown us at this point. I don't think anyone else is capable of beating you. Now, Trace Jackson Davis and Devontae, they're capable of beating you. They can get hot, and they're capable of beating you. No one else on Indiana's team has even come close to proving that they're capable of beating someone in a 40-minute game.
Bears says, and I'll shorten it, but it's something that a lot of people are saying, it seems like the same mistakes.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you. And that's what. Okay, so let's flip back and say, why did they play such an easy schedule to start the year out? My answer to that would be to make sure to have all these mistakes that they're making right now, and have the time to correct them. Okay, and so they did all that. Now we need to see them corrected, and they're not being corrected. And so, that's alarming. That's an issue. We're going to, as we do as Indiana fans, same as we did after the football game, we lost. So we're going to talk about all the negatives, okay? The beginning of this game, there were – hang on one second.
Yeah, it's just it's not going as well as they had hoped for it to go. But hopefully to get better. Todd had to step out for just a second. How about we take care of this after the show?
He's going to leave.
Okay. Good deal.
Off of that.
All right.
My bad.
Good thing we got that taken care of.
Yeah, my bad. I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry. That's my fault. So, to go along with Bear's statement, you're right. I am with you beyond 100%, in that those things have got to be cleaned up. The same mistakes are being made over and over again, and that's got to stop.
Absolutely. A lot of fans they're seeing frustration. Well, first of all, when you lose, there's a lot of frustration.
Yep.
But it's starting to build, and it's starting to build on Archie and this pressure every game after this happens, and especially a season like this where we know this is going to be a difficult season. Even if they're playing better than they are right now, it's still going to be a difficult season because of what we've seen Wisconsin go to Ohio State. The Big Ten Conference is going to be tough this year, and you have to be at the top of your game in and game out, whether you're at home or on the road, and we're not seeing Indiana at that top very, very frequently, it seems.
Yeah, other than, they went through a stretch of a couple of good victories. They beat Florida State. They beat UConn. They beat Notre Dame. There's a couple of those games that very easily could have gone the other way, but they did the job and got it done and won. So we can't, we got to be okay with success also. And when they are successful at pulling games out, we've got to be, cognizant of that as well. And so those are good things. But right now, it's going to be difficult. Every game, I think it's been proven. Okay, so Minnesota, shorthanded, goes to Purdue and goes to a double overtime game. Now Purdue wins at home, okay, but you see how difficult every game is going to be. Wisconsin is not going to finish in the top half of the Big Ten, and they go to Ohio State last night and win.
And they've got some big wins already.
And they do have. They got 2 big wins, but they got 5 really bad losses. And so, they're not going to finish in the top half of the Big Ten. They're going to finish in that big clump of teams that all have probably between 9 and 12 losses. Who I think right now you see a loss like that, that just shows how, the parity of the Big Ten overall, and that truly any team on any given night can win. That now, you can look at that as a difficulty of what's going on, or you can look at that as you've got a great opportunity. This was a good opportunity for Indiana, okay? The football team had a great opportunity this weekend to win a big bowl game and get to 9 wins, and they didn't take advantage of that opportunity. It's very disappointing. Think about, as a parent, when your kids do something wrong, it's much worse when your parents are disappointed in you than when they're mad at you. And right now with this team, we're disappointed. As Indiana fans, football fans, we're disappointed. They had a great opportunity and they let it go. This game today was a great opportunity for the basketball team to go to Maryland. Maryland is not playing very well. If Maryland has the ability, they've got good players where they have the ability to beat a lot of good teams. If they end up in the top half of the Big Ten or the top couple in the Big Ten, you'll look back at this and say, we got to play them at a time they weren't playing very well. Think about Indiana football playing Michigan State. Had they played them in the last 2 or 3 games of the season, they probably win that game. And that's what this is probably going to be for Indiana. Maryland is not playing very well. I think they're going to continue to get better, and they'll be a better team later on. The good news is I think we play them in like 5 more games from now. They play them back here.
The thing there, though, is I think that is what's so frustrating to so many
really
fans is Indiana is not – they're not seeing that improvement.
Indiana fans, and this is – I'm saying this is a positive. Please, I hope it comes across that way. But Indiana fans have never accepted losing. No matter if you played great.
You're a good loser, I'll show you a loser.
Yeah, no matter if you played great and ended up getting beat, or no matter if you played terrible, it doesn't matter. There's no good loss, and they've been conditioned that way, and rightfully so. That's what makes us Indiana fans. That's what makes us big basketball fans, and so it is so difficult for me. I mean, believe me, I coached AAU basketball for a long time, and my kids that I've coached for years will tell you that. I don't care if it was the championship game or the first game of the tournament, if we were playing the 5th-ranked team in the country or a team that couldn't score 5 points on you in a game. Like, I've never been conditioned to be okay with losing or even playing bad. We had tons of opportunities where we, in games where we won the game, and I still thought we played terrible. And that's just how Indiana fans are conditioned. That's how I've been conditioned to look at the game and to analyze how they play. I'm not okay with losing. Just because I'm not making excuses for them, but I'm telling you the reasons why I think they're still going to be okay and still going to win. Still going to win a fair share of games. I still am optimistic, but I'm not okay with this.
Here's what I think that a lot of fans would ask after you say that. Where does that optimism come from? Because when you don't see any improvement and you see the same mistakes and you see the same guys not playing well, where does that optimism come from that you think they're going to get better?
Because the players that we have, I have seen them throughout this, first 14 games of the season now. I've seen them play at a level that is capable of beating a lot of teams. The Florida State game was a great example. The UConn game was a good example. The Notre Dame game for 3/4 of it was a really good example. I mean, if they'd have played the way they played in the first 30 minutes of the Notre Dame game, they would have won this game today at Maryland. They just didn't. But on the flip side of that, I'll tell you, I thought they executed at the beginning of this game maybe as well as they've executed so far this year. I mean, they executed the game plan at least, I'll say that. Some of the baskets didn't go in, but, they are – I think my optimism with this team is that if you look at talent level, the talent that we have on the court, from an athletic ability, from a pure basketball ability, from basketball IQ, along with our coaching staff, I think that I like the makeup of our team, and I like what we have. I don't think they're playing very well right now at all. But let's look at it right now. So you can't predict this and then not be okay with it when it happens. We all predicted this was going to be a loss. And they lost.
I don't think people are upset with the loss. Like I said, it's how they lost.
Yeah.
How they're losing.
I mean, they were. But if that's the case, they were down by 3 with 15 minutes to go.
Yeah.
They were in the game.
Down by 30.
I understand that, but this is my point of what I was saying and all that. Had they been ahead the whole game and got beat on a last-second buzzer beater, I would not feel any better about this than I do being down by 30. A loss is a loss. That's how, we talk about it with the football team all the time, in that they had a 1-point loss the other day. If that's a 1-point victory, we talk about it like that was a great game, like all the execution was awesome. And we would have overlooked an awful lot of negatives.
There were some blunders that were so bad they don't go on.
In that game, you would say those are learning experiences that we can make sure never happen again, and that would have pretty much been the end of it if they won.
To say that at that point.
But that's how finicky and that's how fickle a point here there is.
Absolutely.
And so let me tell you my. I told you this at halftime. Going into halftime, this was an issue that I had. They did this exact same thing in the Arkansas game. I've always been brought up, all Indiana fans have been brought up, of how important possessing the ball is. Every possession is so important. Indiana has possession of the ball and a timeout with 50 seconds to go in the first half. Okay? You have the ball. The ball's out of bounds. You're throwing it in with 50 seconds to go. There's a 30-second shot clock. I mean, let's just you and I do the math real quick, and let's say we've got to get a shot up in the first 10 to 12 seconds of the shot clock. Indiana has shown the ability many, many times this year to go down and get a quick shot. I don't even care if that is not the best shot in the world. It's an opportunity, and I think that I have more opportunity to score more points if I have 2 possessions, even if one of the shots is bad, than I do if I only have 1 possession. And they did not. They took a shot with 29 seconds left on the shot clock and missed it. But missing or making it didn't matter to me at that point. If they take that same shot with 40 seconds, I'm totally fine with it. And those are the little tiny details that you cannot happen. No coach has to tell me that. No coach in the world. I'll tell you right now, if I'm the guard and I get the ball in bounds, I dribble down, I figure out a way to chuck a shot up in the first 8 seconds. And if the coach says, why would you take that shot? I would say, it's a 2-for-1 opportunity. I have to take that shot.
And that brings up something to me that's called basketball IQ.
It totally is. But this is 2 games in a row they've done it, and they didn't go for the 2-for-1.
I have to ask the question, how the basketball IQ on this team has not been looking
I'm questioning it. I'm wondering, I said to you in the last game, actually I said to you on our daily show, I was kind of outlining how difficult it is to be a guard. How difficult, it's difficult to play all the positions. But just from the point guard's perspective, as you're dribbling the ball down the court, there's a range of I'll say 100 to 2,000 different things that have to be going on in your head, that you have to be thinking about, that you have to know. You have to know time of possession. You have to know who scored. You have to know who's got foul trouble. You have to know who's on the floor for you. When they dribble down the court and we sit here and watch the game, how many times have you heard me say, look at the lineup we have on the floor. Who's the scorer? Who's going to do our scoring with this lineup that's on the court? And I swear to you, I don't think anybody on our team has that same thought. Like if I'm Rob Finney dribbling the ball down the court and I'm looking at my other 4 options, I'd be going, okay, well, I'm shooting this possession.
But that brings up a bigger question to me then, is if the players don't seem to know it on the court, and they don't, does the coach on the sideline seem to know it? Because he's the guy that put that lineup on the floor.
Yeah.
And I know that's a tough position to be in, but you have to ask that
question.
Okay,
so here's the deal as a player, I don't ever want that to become a question with the coaches because I want to play. I mean, I want to play, and what's every player want to do?
Right.
Except for Race Thompson,
there has to be trust.
What's everybody on Indiana's team want to do? They want to shoot. Right.
And you have to trust your players. I get that.
But as a player, you should be able to slow the game down, look at what's going on out there, and realize, oh my gosh, this is not only do I have the opportunity to be on the court, like I'm the only scorer on the floor. Like this is a great time for me to be on the court right now because a bad shot from me right now is still a good shot for us. And I don't see us recognize that. That's not a coaching issue. That's a player's issue. That's a Rob Finney. That's an Armand Franklin. That's an Al Durham. Devontae, you don't have to worry about it because he'll shoot it.
Because we talk so much about your playing days, and of course, I don't want to use.
I do. I know. I Bill Walton this thing all the time. I know it.
It's because it's a great point of reference, and I hate to bring up Bob Knight because I get so sick and tired of hearing him being brought up as a comparison because it's not relevant. But the only relevance here is you played for him, so I have to. He, from talking to you, just pounded into you guys these scenarios, these situations, over and over. I don't know if that's happening, or then these guys are not listening, or they're not doing it. It's one of the two.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It is one of the two, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't have that answer. But I'll say a lot of these issues are repeated. They're happening over and over again, and they're things that can definitely be fixed. I mean, there are things that are easy. Our players are talented. That's the crazy part. Like, where's my optimism? Where's my optimism? Our players are talented. I mean, that's where my optimism is. I mean, these guys can play. We've got guys with some ability. Now, we don't have great shooters. Would I love to have 2 more spot-up shooters on our team? Yes.
People like to see Todd Leary.
I would love to see. I would love to have played on a team like this. I mean, believe me. Look at the guys I was.
How many shots would you take?
A lot.
And you don't have to worry about. Well, you may have to worry about coming out this year because I really don't understand these substitutions. But anyway.
Yeah, but here's what I could prove based on what I've seen so far is it wouldn't matter if I shot myself out of this game. I'm still going to get to come in next game. It ain't going to matter.
Oh, you're coming back in this game.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like I don't know what I could do right now other than, physically assault somebody and get kicked out of the game like Al did the last game that could really make sure I don't get back in the game and get another opportunity.
Bob says you better put more money in the meter.
It's good. That's actually. Is he here? Like, how does somebody know that? Like, is he here?
It was so perfect. That's why I had to see that one. Cindy says, "Where's the pride to play at IU?" But Doug says something that you talked about earlier, and I got to bring this up. What's eating Rob? Conditioning? Question mark. I have a hard time with that playing.
Who asked that?
Dave White. Is that's about Rob? Because you talk about that there's something going on.
Yeah, no, I'm impressed at the question because I have the same exact question. I mean, Rob Finney is playing with zero confidence. Like, not just zero confidence in shooting the ball or free throws. Like, he looks like he has zero confidence. The one play, remember I said it when he did it in this ball game. He drove into the lane, he jumps up, he takes the contact, he finishes at the rim, and I'm like, hang on a minute, that's the old Rob, that's the Rob we're used to. Maybe that gets him jump started, but I mean, then there was. I'm not saying he did anything bad after that. There just was kind of not a whole lot that happened after that. So I don't know. I truly wish I knew because there's something. I said it in the last ball game when he missed the 2 free throws. He's an 85% free throw shooter, and he almost airballed 2 free throws. Like, I can't explain how that's not a thing, how that's not even possible. I don't care what's on the line. If it's a life or death situation and someone has a gun pointed at me, I couldn't almost airball a free throw that badly. Like, it's not possible for an 85% free throw shooter to not have something mentally going on that is unexplainable, that none of us can fix.
And I know that this team is getting kind of not positionless, but there's not really, Rob Finney's known as the point guard, but they don't really always have a point guard, so that's not relevant. But Rob himself, Rob Finney, is a guy that this team has grown, the fans have grown to count on, to being a heady player.
Sure.
To being the guy that kind of is the leveler, that keeps things kind of
No
level.
doubt. He's the leveler for me on this team.
But we're not getting it.
Yep, they're definitely not getting it. And then, not only are they not getting it,
nobody's giving it.
And not only are they not getting it, is he's making a lot of mistakes. And that's even worse. Like, not only is he not the guy who we can count on to, keep things running smooth and get the ball where it needs to go, he's making a lot of mistakes when he's out there. So, there's some issues that I will tell you. I don't think we know what they are. Right now we just sit back and say, hey, the coach has got to change this and do that. I mean, they're dealing with some stuff. I'm just flat out going to say it. I don't know. We don't have any proof of anything, but they're dealing with something because Rob is not the same player he was a month ago.
There's a good question by Bob. Does the head coach make all substitution discussions, or is an assistant given any power?
Most of the time, the assistants make a lot of those decisions, and so it's discussed. If you watch, okay, so the NBA is not a great example, but it's kind of, you'll understand if you watch it at all, is LeBron James in every single game, he knows that at the 5.5 minute mark, he's coming out of the first quarter. And he knows at the 9.5 minute mark of the second quarter, he's going back in. But nobody even really has to tell him. He's LeBron, so he's telling himself to go in or out anyway. But on every team, that's pretty much, it's a pattern in how they substitute. It's a little bit different, but not a lot different when it comes to situations like this. Perfect example of what Bob is asking on there from my perspective is, there was a substitution where Joey Brunk came out in the first half, or in the second half, right about the 15-minute mark, and Deron Davis came in. And it was right after Brunk, I think, either made a basket or made a free throw or did something or whatever. Something positive had happened, and he came right out of the game. That's a scheduled substitution. They're making that substitution. I think he had already picked up his third foul. So everything is kind of situational. If a player picks up his third foul early in the second half, he's either coming right out or at the first TV time, he's probably coming out. He's probably not coming back in until the 12 or 11-minute mark. Those are probably predetermined, and game-wise and situationally, they might change here or there. But overall, I'm going to say the head coach doesn't make the majority of those substitutions.
Well, there's a game going on right now that really, you think Hoosier fans are pissed off right now? They are about to go ballistic if Tom Crean
just beat Memphis. Oh, 8 seconds to go.
Yes.
No, they're not about to go. I'll tell you right now. There's not a single IU fan that's
nobody wants him back.
There's not a single IU fan whose last name is not Crean who wants to trade that scenario.
The only thing that's going to make him mad is the fact that you got a guy that also has not been that great a coach, but he's going to go in to beat a team like that, and that's what they want. That's what they want to see. They want to see their team do something like that.
Yeah.
They want to see him get a nice win.
Okay,
they want to see him play hard more than anything.
I had this discussion with Jessica on the way here, and it's a question, like, this is for fans. I'm going to ask you because we're sitting right here. But right now, would you rather have a Wisconsin? Would you rather be the Wisconsin team be your Indiana team and be 9-5 and have beaten one at Ohio State, beat Indiana at home, and one at Tennessee, but you've lost some terrible, awful losses? Or would you rather be an Indiana team? Today we expected them to lose. All of us expected them to lose today. So would you rather have an Indiana team that's 11-3 and getting ready to come back home and play your home games? Which one would you rather have? Which one would you rather be?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
The question, is Wisconsin getting better?
Not consistently.
Okay.
I think Wisconsin is. I think Wisconsin is.
I think it's a coin toss.
I think really.
Even if they're only, but if they're getting better, I don't see improvement on this team at all. I see they are flatlined, and if you're giving me something with Wisconsin, that gives you hope for the season as it goes out, because there's going to be more wins and possibly more big wins, and they're going to take some lumps, but those big wins are going to look a lot better.
But you're not going to make the tournament. You have zero chance of making the tournament if you're Wisconsin.
Like
at 11-3, you have a lot better chance than at 9-5. I mean, 9-5, they have some inexcusable losses that there's no way that they far outweigh the win at Ohio State. That's really their only good win. Tennessee's a terrible team, and they're proving that regularly. But they went on the road, and they won that game there. It's not like the UConn win for Indiana. It's a little bit better, but not a lot better. But when you look at it, which one would you rather? Like, Wisconsin fans are feeling great today about their team, and but then they're going to turn around. They're in second place in the Big Ten right now, and in 2 weeks they're going to be in second to last place.
Maybe.
Right now, Ohio State's in second to last place in the Big Ten, and in 2 weeks
they'll be a lot higher.
Hopefully not, because hopefully Indiana beats them in a week.
Points out, you got 2 games coming up, 2 games at home. You have 2.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. So I lump these into 3 and 4 game batches. Okay, and this first batch was at Maryland, Northwestern at home, and Ohio State at home. You got to go 2 and 3. I mean, I pick them. They have to go 2 and 3, which means right now you didn't take advantage of this opportunity on the road. So you've got to beat Ohio State, and you got to beat Ohio State. It's at home. It's at Assembly Hall, so that's a good thing. But you're going to have to beat Ohio State, and out of those first 3 games, if they go 1 and 3, I will say they're under par. They're not playing as well as they are. Then after that, then they've got another stretch where they've got 2 away games. They've got at Rutgers, at Nebraska, and then Michigan State back at home. That 3-game stretch, they've got to go 2 and 3. And as long as they keep doing that and they keep staying on pace with that. Now, right now, the question mark's going to be they're going to beat Northwestern. That's a given.
Do they have to beat both of these home games?
Do they have to? No. I mean, to stay on pace with where I think, because it's a different world now. It's not the Bob Knight world anymore, where I expect to win every game. Okay, like I'll just tell you straight up, as a player, like, we expected to win every single game, and right now it's not that world anymore. I mean, so if we lump it together as 2 out of 3, and I don't say every situation has to be 2 out of 3, because there's a couple they need to win 3 out of 3, and there's a couple that I'm going to be okay with 1 out of 3. But in this particular instance, if they go 2 out of 3 out of this, I'm going to look at it. 1 week from today, they play Ohio State. 1 week from today, I'll look at this and I will say they're right on par with where they should be.
That's a big picture.
Sure. If you look at it overall, we're talking about making the tournament and getting a good seed right now. And if we're talking about that, would you rather have 9-5 Wisconsin or 11-3 Indiana? And I would take 11-3 Indiana.
I get that on the face of it, and I understand. I know exactly what you're saying. I think that
even with the gigantic win, they went on the road and beat a number 5 team in the country. It's a huge win. It doesn't happen very often. And I would still take this Indiana team and where they're at.
James says IU has no threats from the outside, of course. Yeah,
Bingo.
He's not wrong about that.
Yep.
And then Dr. J says defenses are going to continue sitting on them down low because they don't have that outside threat. We talked about that earlier. That's going to become a problem.
But and it is
because that's your best player that they're working on shutting down now.
That's why I was so impressed with the beginning of this game, because we saw one thing out of Joey Brunk I've not seen in all year long, and that's a left-handed jump hook that looks like he's been shooting it his whole life. It was pure as can be, went in without even touching the rim. So I was very impressed with that. You know what? Probably my most positive thing of the whole game was Justin Smith playing with his back to the basket. And
have you ever seen that before?
It's been a long time. I'm surprised. It catches me so off guard when he does it. But he made a great one-handed jump hook, banked it in off the basket. It looked like that was his go-to signature move. And it looked good. It looked as good as can be. Now, I will tell you, I don't care what team tries to pack it in on whatever. If you get Brunk, Trace Jackson-Davis, Justin Smith, you get all of those guys with the ability to play in there with their back to the basket, they can't defend well enough inside. They would have to pack a 2-3 zone in tighter than Shoals will be doing tonight in the high school game.
Another thing, we talked about this, and of course this is not like I'm pulling up something magical here. Free throws.
Yeah,
I've seen people
it's
say,
embarrassing.
They've got to practice. It's not about practicing free throws. These guys know how to shoot free throws. It's not that. We saw Joey Brunk go to the line on that technical, missed 2 free throws, but he didn't shoot them the same way. His form was, he leaned forward on one.
He did almost fall forward on it.
He didn't on the other.
I know.
They're not even. I don't know.
I mean, free throws. First of all, I mean, there's a solid 15% difference for a free throw shooter simply from confidence alone. I mean, if you think you're going to make it, it's a 15% difference.
They don't look confident at the line.
No, they all look scared to death. I mean, the only person that doesn't is Devontae. Devontae is just Devontae, and a scorer always thinks they're going to score no matter what. He thinks he's going to make every shot. He thinks he's going to make every free throw. I'm not saying that negatively. I understand
Doesn't that just come down to mental toughness?
I don't know. I knew some really tough. I knew some really mentally tough people that were terrible free throw shooters, and part of it. So 15% of it is pure confidence, but a lot of it is technical issues. And believe me, I think if you gave me an hour with each one of these guys, I could improve. I can see some technical issues. I can see some technical difficulties with a couple of their shots that could be worked on and fixed. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you, if somebody wants to become a better free throw shooter and is willing to listen and change, it's a lot different than somebody who thinks they do it right already anyway and is not really willing to learn.
Eric says, I thought Race and Jerome and Justin were going to make the next step, improve, and we're not seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, Justin showed me something today that I hope they watch that film. Here's where I would love to get a hold of him, is because he made a great move, little one-handed jump hook. Then, like, either the next play or 2 plays later, he shoots a fadeaway. He goes back to the basket and shoots a fadeaway jumper in the lane. Okay. 20 years ago, Todd would say that's a terrible shot. You can't do that. Not 2020 Todd. I believe today I'll take that shot all day long. I love that shot out of Justin Smith. My real problem is from that point on, he never caught the ball in the post again. He never went back to it.
Whose fault is that?
I don't know. I can't answer. I honestly don't know that.
It's not about fault. I don't mean fault. I'm trying to watch my.
Okay, so you want my opinion? You know whose fault that is? Whoever had the ball in their hands. Because I wanted to see. Okay, Deron Davis. I'm not a gigantic Deron Davis on the floor fan. I think we all would agree. My statements back that up. But Deron Davis in the second half catches the ball, makes a move into the lane, shoots a jump hook. He misses it, but I will take 75 of those plays of him moving any player on our team going into the lane and shooting a little jump hook. I'll take my chances at that shot versus some of the terrible, ridiculous shots that we end up with. So that's where when I seem like maybe I have optimism that a lot of people don't have with this team, it's because I see him do those little things. That thing at Justin Smith today, that opens up a whole new world for what I think Justin Smith is capable of doing for this basketball team.
Here's another point. Bear makes a good point. He says, I still say it's hard to get a kid to listen when there is no fear of getting some splitters.
Who said that? Who said that?
Bear.
Yeah, Bear's on the money today. Bear ate his Wheaties this morning. He stayed in the Holiday Inn Express last night because he's got some good comments today.
Man, you're on it too.
He's got some good comments today. But I agree with you 100%. Like I am telling you, if they don't figure out a way to start using the bench as a motivator, I think we're going to see a lot of inconsistency throughout the year.
Jay Dow, not Dr. J, says, we're missing a point guard that is a veteran leader. We just don't have it all right now. I disagree with half of that. I don't think the point guard part matters. They do not have a leader on this team. They do not have somebody that is, when things aren't going right, when they're not getting in the ball in the post, they're not going, whoa, guys, hey, let's get this regrouped. Now, I think that falls to the head coach first, but they don't have that on the floor, I don't think. I don't think they have leadership.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. That's why I say this every time we do this. I would love to have a mic in their huddle to hear what they talk about, because I swear I think they all go in there and I think they all look at each other and just go, break, and they'll turn around and walk away. I don't know that anybody says anything.
And we heard some of it today on the TV broadcast.
Did they?
Remember the huddles?
Yeah.
The only thing I heard.
No, I'm talking about the player huddles.
Oh,
I'm talking about when the players get out there. When you talk about leadership out on the court, I mean, somebody at that point's got to be like, okay, so when you start a game out, okay, coach, in the locker room, the coach writes up on the board, okay, here's our 5 keys to the game. You know, we see Jimmy Jackson do it before the game today, and you know, I'm a nerd. I do it in my head. What do we have to do to win today? I mean, these are the things I think of. There's keys to the game and what they have to do to win. Okay, well, once you start getting away from that a little bit, as a leader, as a guy who slows the game down, it's very difficult as a friend. That's why you hear people say all the time, you know, if a kid plays beyond his years, or if you hear them say, you know, the game is too fast for him, or he hasn't been able to slow the game down, it's not truly about slowing the game down. It's about mentally being able to, you know, kind of still look ahead and see the next play and see what's happening. So when things aren't going well, you get in that little huddle and you go, hey, guys, remember our key is to get the ball inside. Our key is to get Justin as many touches as we can in the paint. Our key is to reverse the ball and get it in the post. That's when you reiterate what those keys are to the game. And the coaches come up with those keys. I mean, it isn't like Rob Fennessy designs those keys to the game, but that's when it's a good time to go remind everybody. Because here, I'll be the first one to tell you that Trace Jackson Davis got sped up today. Played more like a freshman today.
Which is what Maryland does.
And that's what the road does to you as much as anything. And he played more out of control today than I think he's played at any point in time so far this year. And that's when it's more important for somebody to slow everything down and go, hey, hang on a minute. I don't think we can expect that of Armon Franklin. He's a freshman. I think in 2 years from now, he'll be the only guy out there talking. I think he has probably the most leadership ability down the road. He's a freshman. There's no way we can expect that out of him right now.
And knowing that Maryland, that's what they do, were they not prepared for that? Not expecting them to speed them up, because that's what they've done all year long and successfully. And
I mean, okay, so when I say they sped him up, so he was catching the ball. The crowd was kind of, you know, animated and loud at the time, and he's catching the ball and he's just trying to go too fast. I mean, how do you prepare him for that? It's just youth. It's youth. And here's why we have thought Trace Jackson Davis has played not like a freshman all year long, is because we've not seen that happen. This is the first real time, and it's not a matter of he could have got just as excited being at a home game and the crowd being that excited into it. I'm saying he got sped up today. He wasn't mentally. I watched that game on TV, and I could tell he was playing a little bit more jittery than he normally plays. That's when it would be great to have a guy, and hey, maybe it's a Cooper Bybee. Maybe it's somebody that's sitting on the bench that comes over to him and goes, hey, slow yourself down. Take a deep breath, slow yourself down, relax, and play like Trace Jackson Davis plays. Don't let them get you sped up. It doesn't have to be the guy that's on the floor running up and down with them. It could be a coach. It can be somebody else. You're a lot better team When, what do they always say when I've got a coach on the floor? What's Cassius Winston to Tom Izzo right now? He's like a coach on the floor. I mean, I have seen so many times Cassius Winston walk over to Tom Izzo and start the conversation almost like, hey, this is what we need to do or whatever.
How many times have you seen that on this Indiana team this entire season?
Donut.
Exactly.
I donut no. 0.
I forgot what I was even going to say. If I had a good
sorry,
one going
sorry.
on. No. It's because I'm ADHD. I can't remember anything. Brad Mullet says, give me 9-5 with big wins. Oh, we talking about, there you go. There's an answer to your question.
Okay, but it's one big win. It's Ohio State is a big win. Tennessee, you could argue, is a decent win. I can argue Florida State and UConn are decent wins.
A team that you think is okay. They beat Indiana.
At home. Yeah. At home, I agree. I mean, that's so. Here's where I will change my opinion. I'm saying today, right now, at 14 games, would I rather have 11-3 this Indiana team with these wins and losses, or that Wisconsin team with 9 wins and 5 losses, and a big win over Ohio State? Wisconsin comes here, I believe. I can pull the schedule up, but I mean, when they come here, the last game of the year. I think they're either the last game of the year when they come here. Indiana will beat the pants off of them, most likely. If they don't, I'll change my opinion. I'll say I'd rather have Wisconsin. But today, on January 4th, I'll take this 11-3 Indiana team and what I think they're capable of versus that team that's coming off of a gigantic. They won't have a bigger win than that all year long.
We got 2 home games. Indiana has 2 home games coming up next.
Big week.
This game is Wednesday. An opportunity at home. What do they have to do? What do they have to do against
Ohio? They play Northwestern Wednesday.
So that's
a win.
That's comp medicine right there.
It is.
That's feel good. You should be able to work but they can't just do what they did earlier in the season. They have to work on these things that they're not doing, so they can improve on them, I think.
Agree.
Along the way.
It's a confidence game. I mean, I've talked so many times about how important confidence is at the free throw line and in your offense and in your defense and just overall. It's immeasurable how important it is. And so it's a confidence game. It's a confidence booster. It's got to get you going. What I don't want to see, I know you'll chuckle when I say this. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see Joey Brunk dunk and flex on anybody after this game in Northwestern, okay? Act like you've been there before.
Take it back a little bit before, because it's a great point. Back to that part of the game, what the situation was, where they were.
Yeah, and I'm going to use Joey as an example because he did it in this game, and this is what's frustrating to me is so after this game, he caught a pass on the break, he laid it in, and he flexed.
And this was in the first half.
No, it was the second half. It was, but they were still in the game.
And they were losing.
They were losing, but they were still in the game. It was a close game at that point. I think it was a 3 or 5 point game at that point. And my issue with that, like this is where I can't get the Bob Knight out of me with that. We talked about it a long time ago. There were certain things Todd Jadlow did and Cree Smith did and those guys did when you're just like, when he did that stuff. And the coaches make a point of making sure that doesn't ever – if Joey Brunk is not embarrassed as hell right now at the fact that he just flexed in front of everybody and then was down by 30 less than 10 minutes later – then he should be. If he's not embarrassed, then I'm embarrassed for him because that's you know what I want you to do? I want you to make that exact same move and turn around and run down the court like you expected to make that move.
And then come back and do it again.
Act like you've been there before, act like you expected it to happen, and act like it's going to happen again. I don't need to flex and show it to you. And it's not Joey is my beat-up doll right now because I just witnessed him do it in this game. But Indiana player does it. It's the cool guy factor I told you last time.
Just get ready to say, you've used this phrase that you've created now, and it seems rampant on this team, the cool guy factor.
We got way too many cool guys, and I don't need anybody else to show me how strong they are. I don't know anybody else to give me the 3 sign after they make their 3-pointer and their 14% 3-point shooter. I don't need any of that. I need consistency. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I almost need the plain vanilla version of
just win.
My kids would laugh so hard because I talk so much trash when we play one-on-one. It's insane.
You mean kind of like Wisconsin?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'd almost say.
I mean, I'm not. You could substitute that Wisconsin team out. I'm looking at them on paper.
That was low-hanging fruit.
But I mean, they even kind of do that a little bit. I mean, they were so.
Well, everybody does it a little bit.
They shouldn't though. They shouldn't. If you could eliminate that,
and you're kicking the crap out of them.
exactly. And my point with that is, in the past coaches. So you know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
If you did that,
you got the hooks.
yeah, there is I can't guess. It would almost be like a suspension, because I can't guess when the next game would you play. It would be
but that goes back
multiple
to
games.
Earlier, I forget who asked the question, but we got guys making mistakes in games repeatedly and are not seeing the bench.
There's a difference between a mistake and
that's
that
right.
mentally, their mind. If you're
that thing.
thinking about flexing after you just made a play, then I'm going to flat out tell you you're not mentally in the game, because there's a lot of other things you need to be thinking about rather than how awesome you are and showing everybody how strong you are.
That's something that seems to be prevalent with a lot. I'm not going to say every player on the floor for Indiana, but a lot of them.
It's too often.
Connected with the situation, they don't seem to be
I need 40 minutes worth of mentally into a basketball game consistently before I'm going to be okay with. And look, Trace Jackson Davis did it after the last game. Did it in the last ball game, in the Arkansas game. He caught a tip dunk. He caught a tip that was a missed shot. He dunked it in and got fouled, and he flexed at the guy who he dunked on, okay? I'm going to be a hypocrite, and I'm going to say I think I flexed the same time he did it. Like, I was happy about it, too. I was pretty excited when all of that happened. But I am in the stands. Like, I'm allowed to do that because I'm a fan. Right. And I want my players to expect that to happen. And I will tell you, I think Trace Jackson Davis, forget his play, I think his demeanor and his attitude and everything is far above being a freshman, okay?
Oh, absolutely.
And so, to me, what he did in that game was uncharacteristic. Joey Brunk, as a transfer into Indiana, that's in his third year of college basketball, that's supposed to be kind of one of your elder statesmen out there, we're supposed to watch how he acts and emulate what he does. I don't ever need to see him flex at the crowd ever again. Ever. Never, never, never.
I just think one of the biggest things is, we talked about it earlier, and we'll bring it back up, but the basketball IQ on this team, it's really, really starting.
It's lower than what I thought. I thought it's almost like we've killed some brain cells since the beginning of the year, because I really thought our basketball IQ was pretty high to start the season. A part of what I'm going to say with that is going to directly deal with Rob Finney. Rob has something going on, and I don't know if it's just as simple of issue as a confidence issue, and I don't know if there's something else that we don't know about. Rob has something going on, and I don't know what it is. Whether he's got a girlfriend problem, whether he's got something wrong with his family at home, I don't know. I don't want to make anything up, because I swear to God I don't know. But he's not 100% mentally into whatever's going on out there. And what have we heard? We don't ever hear anybody talk about it anymore, because these players are so good nowadays. But remember, we used to talk about the sophomore jinx? About your freshman year, you can play all great, and then your sophomore year, for whatever reason it is, you just don't play as well.
We're seeing that.
I mean, we're seeing it out of him, and I didn't think we were going to see it out of him. But I don't know what it is, but it's happening.
Man, it has been a fantastic show that has absolutely flown by.
Our show is better than the game, I think.
Well, I hope so. I certainly hope so. We cannot thank you guys enough for joining us. Make sure you check us out. We're on every day, live 9 to 11, Indiana Sports Beat with Todd Leary, of course. You can go to indianasportsbeat.com if you're not in an area where we're on the radio, so you can find it. Also, any place you find a podcast, Spotify, Google, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all those things, we're there everywhere. And then we're back here again, live from Yogi's, after Indiana takes on Northwestern at home at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall on Wednesday. What time is that game? Do you know?
7, I believe.
Thank goodness.
Yep.
Thanks goodness, not a 9 o'clock game. So we'll be back here live then, and we appreciate everybody joining us. We look forward to your questions. We appreciate everybody hitting us up with the questions. And
man, we got another noon game next Saturday. We got another noon game.
But we cannot thank you guys enough. We really appreciate you. Of course, Yogi's does a phenomenal job of taking care of us. The Finney Hospital.
Feel like we're back home again.
Nathan Finney, Chris Martin. We can't thank those guys enough. Kelly, the GM here today. And, of course, best beer of Bllomington. You have yourself a nice ice-cold Budweiser at Bud Light. We appreciate them helping us make this broadcast possible for you guys as well. But, Todd, final thoughts?
Yeah, excited for the week coming up because I think it's two real good opportunities to improve on what's been a tough, I think, 2 weeks. So, a tough 1 week as an overall Indiana fan, a football team with a disappointing loss. This is a disappointing loss. The Arkansas game was disappointing. So I think we all expect to win on Wednesday against Northwestern at home. It'll be a good week because if you can come away with 2 victories this next week, our show will have a totally different tone next Saturday at this time if we're talking about beating Northwestern and Ohio State in those 2 back-to-back games. So, this week.
How important is it to have that Northwestern game before the Ohio State game?
I don't know. We're past all that. We're past all the pre-conference stuff where you use stuff to improve or whatever. I mean, they need confidence. So it's got some importance. I don't think it's bad. Probably if I had to choose between the two, I would have it exactly the way it is. I'd rather play Northwestern first and then Ohio State. But I mean, overall, we're past all. They got to be getting better. I mean, thank God they don't have another week of no games. I mean, I'm so tired of them going 7 straight days.
Hurt them?
Yes, it's terrible. It's awful. You want to get in a rhythm. You want to get going. You want to get in a rhythm. You cannot, I don't care if Bob Knight's teams didn't do it, and Archie Miller's teams can't do it either. No teams can do it. You cannot get game speed going on in practice. I don't care how good your backup 5 is or whomever else. You cannot emulate game speed in practice.
Was like 3 weeks.
It's awful. 3 weeks. They play 3 games in 3 weeks.
And now
it's
they're gonna
awful.
play 4 games in a 12-game.
Exactly. But I'm telling you, from a player's perspective, you can get in a rhythm. You can get things going when it comes to that. It's a much better scenario. Having a full week of practice, whether you're coming off a win or a loss, having a full week of practices, it sucks. It's terrible. And when here's something you want to know what players do when they see the schedule that comes out in the year. One of the very first things they ever do is look to see what games are right before your week off, because you know how bad that week can be. That's what we always used to do. You look and see, oh my gosh, we go to Purdue right before we got a whole week off, and you're like, oh my gosh.
I'm not sure these guys are doing that.
That's a nightmare.
Just only because we talk about.
Well, yeah. I also told you we had 3 straight seasons we never lost a home game. So I mean, we were counting all the home games as wins.
Shelley wants to have you as an assistant coach. I think that wouldn't be a bad idea either, because I think they need some mental toughness. And
I don't know that they can handle. I don't know that they can handle me. I get pretty fired up.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive that probably.
I know they wouldn't vote for it. All right.
Well, that's going to wrap it up. Man,
Yeah.
we can't thank everybody enough. We appreciate everybody.
Great-
Yogis,
great,
thank you for everybody. It's been a
great participation
fantastic
today.
show.
Thanks, everybody,
We're
for the
back
great
here on
comments.
Monday morning on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, of course. You can catch us there, and we're back for after the game with Todd Leary Wednesday after the Northwestern game. So until then, for Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.